Hey everybody, I'm Alphonse, and welcome to 21 Questions. This is going to be a podcast that I record from the confines of my car as I drive. So, if you're wondering why there might be some surrounding sounds, that's why. Anyway, before we continue, I just want to give a shout out to Alexandria. She's an amazing person who not only got me a microphone for my birthday, the very one that I'm using to record this podcast right now, but she's also incredibly supportive of a lot of the things I do. So, make sure you got a friend like Alexandria, basically. Anyway, so the premise of this podcast is that every week, optimally, I am going to answer 21 questions. They're all going to revolve around a certain theme. In the instance of this week, as of the time I'm recording this, and hopefully the time that I upload this, it'll have been 2 weeks since my 21st birthday. Jeez, that'd be really weird if it'd been 21 days. Anyway, so, actually 2 weeks is almost 21 days. Or like 2 weeks is 14, so plus 7 more. 3 weeks would have been 21 days. That would have been interesting. But we're digressing too hard. So yeah, 21 questions. All revolving around a certain theme. In the case of this week, I want to focus on reflection. Because now that I'm 21, just feels like a good time to just think about the past and other random shenanigans. So, let's get started. Question 1. What is a reflection in the verb sense and in the noun sense? Well, basically, to reflect, the verb, is to... You can either make a mirror image of yourself, basically, or if you want to go with the figurative reflecting, it means to take a moment to think about yourself and all of that fun whatnot. And as for the noun version of reflect, that means to... A reflection is basically a vision of yourself. Now, of course, this vision can be either a physical vision, like in a mirror, or a mental vision, like thinking about your personal self. But at its core, a reflection, the noun form, is a vision of yourself. So that's question 1. Question 2, are self-reflections important? Well, I personally believe so. You should always take some time in order to just think about the things that you've done, the things that you haven't done, and the things that you want to do. So, yeah, I do find them incredibly important, and I recommend a lot of people do it as well. Question 3. What can a person gain from doing a self-reflection? Well, it allows them to get some perspective on themselves. A self-reflection is essentially, at its core, a nice little mental checklist. You get to think about, okay, here's all the good things that happened today. And you can even think about the bad things, because I'm sure if they're bad, they might end up coming up as you think to yourself. And you can think about what hasn't happened, particularly if it's something that you want to have happened. So just having all these perspectives is a very useful thing, in my opinion, that self-reflection provides. So, yeah, that's that. Question 4. What can a person lose from a self-reflection? Well, there is the point where you can self-reflect too much. And at that point you could potentially end up having your mind in the past, and that's not a good place to be in, because essentially the past already happened. You're not moving in that direction. So the more that your mind lingers in the past, the less likely you'll be able to go on and do things that you want to do. So essentially, just don't self-reflect too much. It has to be in moderation. Honestly, so many things that are good are only good in moderation. So that's how I feel about that. Question 5. What kinds of people need self-reflection the most? To that, I say it's probably the people thinking about it the least. Because it's probably the people that are thinking about it the least that are thinking the least about themselves. From my perspectives, of course. Very subjective, I know, but I feel like I'm on a certain track. Anyway, so essentially these people who aren't taking the time to self-reflect, I'm worried personally that they are not taking the right measures in assessing how far they're going or how far they want to go. And they're not taking the time to understand what are the bad things. Because, I don't know, sometimes those have to be acknowledged at some point. So, yeah. The people who need to self-reflect the most are the ones who think about it the least. Question 6. What does the Bible verse James 1:24 mean? For those out of the loop, this is a verse that says, you look in the mirror, and then you walk away, and you don't remember what you look like. It's essentially, in religious context, it's supposed to talk about how if you don't follow the word of the Bible, it's basically like this guy who looks himself in the mirror, then walks away and forgets about it. However, I feel like this whole verse, just by itself, can be used in a very non-religious manner, in a very secular manner, because it's still very cautionary, but it's just saying that you have to be sure that when you look yourself in the mirror, you not only process what you are, but carry that thought process with you for the rest of the time. You can't just think to yourself, and then the moment you stop thinking to yourself, have those thoughts just cast away. You need to keep them around. Otherwise, those thoughts won't do you any good, essentially. So that's how I feel about James 1:24. Question 7. Can our reflections show who we are inside? To a degree, yes. There's definitely certain emotions that might not necessarily present themselves through physical characteristics, but there are certain ways that emotions can show themselves through your physical self, at least implications of it. For instance, say you're really tired or you're worn down by something incredibly stressed. You might have baggy eyes, and your eyes are half shut. Or you might just in general carry a very neutral to frowny face. In a similar vein, if you're happy, say, you might be standing up straight more, and you might look a bit cheery. Your skin might look bright. I don't even know if that actually happens. But anyway, so to a degree, yes, that's definitely very possible. Question 8. Who is the man in the mirror? Both figuratively and literally. Well, Literally, the man in the mirror is simply the person you are looking at when you're looking in the mirror, which 9 times out of 10 is yourself. As for the figurative man in the mirror, we often think that when we look in the mirror, we're looking at our inner selves, and so as a result, the moment we look in the mirror, we get to talk to our consciousness, our mind, essentially. It's pretty nifty mechanic, if I do say so myself. Anyway, question 9. Can vampires see the reflection? And I personally love the idea that vampires don't, because it's incredibly symbolic, showing how vampires are basically a shell of their former human selves. But it's also a nice little like horror thing, because say for instance a person's just by themselves in a bathroom looking in a mirror, then all of a sudden you just get attacked. They're like, ah! But then plot twist, it was a vampire, and they couldn't see the vampire because they were so preoccupied in the mirror that they couldn't look behind them. So I find it neat that vampires can't see the reflection. Question 10. Do you believe a person's friends reflect themselves? To that I say, definitely yes. Not absolutely, but a good portion of it. Because you're only gonna be friends with people that you share some kind of connection with, whether because it's of common situations or common interests. So you're only going to gravitate towards the people that you feel some sort of commonality with. And I will clarify that I do not mean Facebook friends, because you can just Facebook friend people with ease like it's nothing. I'm talking about the people that you regularly expose yourself to, regularly hang out with. Those are the people that reflect certain aspects of your personality. Question 11. What is your general reflection on the semester so far? I feel that the semester is going all right. I have 2 classes that are very tolerable and manageable, and 2 classes that are not so. But I am really determined to do well this semester. The semester is basically a very reformative semester for me, because last semester I just had a great deal of apathy for a whole bunch of reasons, but I'm determined to feel a spark again. So I am determined to make this semester much better than last semester, or last year in fact. So yeah. Question 12. Reflections on the Vegas shooting. I'm horrified. It's terrible when these traumatic events happen. Like I seriously don't understand what compels people to do such evil, in my opinion, and my condolences to anyone who has been affected by the tragedy. I just hope that we don't have to face something so terrible again. I know that's really wishful thinking, so I guess a more realistic wish is that I hope such terrible events just decrease in either magnitude or frequency. Fingers crossed both, but that's all I can really say about that. Question 13. What's something you wish a reflection could show you, but doesn't? I wish, personally, that reflections express to you your true flaws, because I feel that we're not often ones to admit or want to dig out what is truly wrong with us. We're just averse to it. The more we think, we never ever want to feel bad. I personally never try avoiding feeling bad, and because of this, that means we just avoid the harsh truths about ourselves. So maybe not every time, but I'd like a reflection to be able to kind of illuminate to us what is truly wrong. Like, not necessarily to put us down always, but to just help us right the ship. Question 14. How many times a day do you look in the mirror? I probably look in myself in the mirror less than a handful of times. I don't know. That's not something I'm very keen on doing. So there's that. How many Snapchats do you send per day? Also, less than a handful. When it comes to Snapchat, I am not a sender. I am a watcher. Opinion on the song Reflection by Mr. Wives. I have not listened to this song enough to have a concrete opinion on it. And certainly, but I feel that it is a neat song. And I'll try listening to it more, because apparently this question is also requesting me to sing it. I definitely do not know the song enough to sing it. Question 17. Does my reflections show who I am inside? Yep. Song references for the win. Anyway, definitely to a degree, as I alluded to in the question that asked if all our reflections show who we are on the inside, I'd be inclined to say yes, to a degree. I generally, whenever I look myself in the mirror, I'll probably be smiling, just because I like being cheery as often as possible. But you can definitely look at my face and see that, like, I have baggy eyes. Like, there's signs of stress, but then I overall try being enthusiastic. So that's how I feel about that. Question 18. How do you feel about the myth of Narcissus who fell in love with his own reflection? Really weird. Obviously, it's supposed to be very reflective of our human nature, and definitely, as with James 1:24, it's important to just be mindful that you shouldn't feel so selfish all the time. Question 19. Would you want mirrors to only show your ideal self? Not all the time, because you don't want to just get disillusioned with, like, oh, I am always this ideal. I feel like if there was a toggle switch between an ideal self and your regular self, that would be nifty, because at that point you could just be able to use your ideal self-reflection to determine what you want to aspire to, and then use your regular reflection to see, okay, I have to take these steps to get to that point. So yeah, I will note also that maybe this ideal reflection might not show, like, the emotional qualities, even though it might have some emotional implications, but still, ideal self-reflection, I'd want to have that on a toggle switch. Question 20. If you were watching Netflix and then all of a sudden it turned off and all you saw was your reflection, how would I feel? I have not had this situation come up, but if I did experience it, then I would feel probably not even looking at my reflection because I just try to troubleshoot the internet or my laptop so that I could watch my shows that I love so much, so hard. And finally, question 21, share a reflection on life. And I'd say that there are a lot of ways that I feel kind of incomplete. But I am thankful that I have so much more time ahead for me to be able to get on the path of completeness. And I'm really grateful for a bunch of the experiences that I've been on. Like, I've been able to expose myself to a lot of cool media. I've got to travel around the world, got to meet some amazing people, all of which I hope to be able to bring up in some form over the coming weeks. And so I am feeling just in the middle, which I think is a good place to be, because it leaves you content enough that you're like, okay, the things I've done, they're great, but there's more to be done. And I like that. I like having a hunger to go and do more. And that's a wrap. Yeah, that's 21 questions. Wow. Oh man, it's so exciting. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed me rambling on 21 questions about reflection. If you enjoyed what you listened to, be sure to follow me on SoundCloud to catch more of these episodes, plus see some of the musical things that I do, because I'm heavily passionate about that. I hope you all have a great day. Peace out, guys. See you all soon.